Thank you for joining me in this video covering view controls. You will not need your tablet or total station for this video, as I will only be presenting information about how the tool works. The view controls button is in the lower middle part of the screen between edit points and zoom out. It can be found in the same place in all 5 of the principal applications, but has different options for each one. I will quickly cycle through the 5 apps and open the view controls in each one to show you how the options change. Then we will discuss what the options do. Now that you've seen how the options change, I'm going to go into the Layout Points application for the purposes of this video, because this is the app you will be using the most. The first option in the upper left corner is Cross Section, and it's grayed out, meaning we can't use it in this application right now. You will never need this view option, but I'll explain its use anyways. This is used to create a section that would allow the user to lay out elevations for objects like highway profiles or similar work. The next option is Arrow View. Note that if I don't have a point selected when I choose this, nothing happens, but when I select a point and click Start, the view changes. The information by default is presented to me referencing my location, looking at the total station. If you start walking in the directions indicated by the arrows while you are facing the total station and at the distances noted, you will find your point. Select another point, touch the screen on either the left or right side. This will return you to the map view, where you can choose another point, which will return you to the arrow view. At this point, if you would rather reference a direction instead of the total station, you can change it. Click on the toolbox, choose Reference, and follow the prompts in the upper right corner. As an example, let's say I find it easier to be facing north all the time. I'll click on a grid line running north to south. Note the green flag and the checkered flag. Just like in racing, the green flag is the starting point and the checkered is the ending point. This means that the direction starts at the south and looks to the north. If you would prefer to face south, click the button in the lower right corner that flips the line. Let's set it to north and click the green check to accept this. Now notice that there is a reference line on my screen. Please note that you can also do this from east to west. If I begin moving, the numbers and arrows will reflect the direction that I need to go to arrive at my point. But I need to be facing north while I'm moving. Many people find it easier to face a certain direction instead of always trying to remember where the total station is and face it while searching for a point. This reference line option can be used in other viewing modes, not just arrow view, but I wanted to show you that it's possible even in this one. Your viewing options are a personal preference. There is no right or wrong way. Whatever works best for you is what you should use. I'll show you multiple ways to set your view, explain how they work, and you can pick what you prefer. Now let's uncheck Arrow View and return to the Layout Points Map View. I'm going to go into the toolbox and turn off Reference Line by clicking the red X. Now our view is reset to the default options. The next option is Stakeout List. This is going to be a lengthy description, but this program can be useful if you know how to use it, especially because you can create a list that contains the points in your pour area and keep track of any points you may have missed. If you watched the previous video regarding edit points, then you'll remember that I mentioned creating a stakeout list. Now we'll cover it in full. The first thing we need to do is create our list. We'll open Edit Points, click ID, Define and Map Selection, and now let's assume that we know our pour area is this area that I'm selecting. Let's say we're up on the deck, the carpenters haven't finished decking the next pour, and we want a list that ensures we lay out all the points in our current area. I've highlighted the pour area. I'll click the green check, and then the next green check. And then I'll go into Toolbox and select Stakeout List. Let's give the list a name like Level 2 Pour 1, for example. Click the green check, then click the next green check. We'll receive a warning that the points were added to a new stakeout list. Click OK. Now let's return to our Layout Points map view by clicking back through File List, and then the red X. Now open the View Controls and select Stakeout List. If it doesn't automatically open, click Home, click another application, click Home, and re-enter Layout Points. Open your View Controls and select Stakeout List. Let's select the first point on the list, where we are to return to our map view. Let's click Start. Now let's click Next Point and cycle through all the points. You will notice that it never chooses a point outside of the Pore 1 area that you defined. Please note, if your screen doesn't show the Next Point button, then press and hold over the Store Point area, and at the next page, select Next Point for one of the empty columns and press the green check. This will add it to your screen. By now you've noticed that when I click Next Point, it doesn't send me to the closest point, which can be time-consuming and frustrating. We can change that by opening the toolbox, choosing Auto Point Selection, and on the right side choosing Nearest from List. Then on the left side where it says Mode, turn it on and click the green check. Now when you return to the map view, select the first point you want to lay out. Clicking Next Point at this time will not cycle through the points like before. Instead, it will move to the point closest to where you're standing. From then on, the points will automatically advance to the point nearest the one you just laid out once you click Store. Now I'll show you one of the benefits of using Stakeout List. I'll store a couple points as an example. Notice as I move and store, it keeps selecting the next nearest point from my list. Now let's return to the icon home screen. Once there, look in the lower right corner of the data palette and you'll see Stakeout List Management. Clicking that button first shows me the lists I've created. If I had more than one, they would show up here and I could select which one I wanted to look at. Notice that next to Level 2 Pore 1, it shows me the percentage of points I have laid out and stored. This is useful if you've stopped for lunch or the end of the day and need to pick up your work later. You can tell how much has been completed. By clicking the arrow to the right of the name of the list, I am given the option to edit the Stakeout list. For example, I can change the name of the list, but more importantly, notice that to the left of the point numbers, I can also see which points from the list have been laid out by the symbol of the rod over the blue point instead of the regular gray circle. If I wish to remove points from the list, I can click the red X to the right of the point. If you mistakenly remove the wrong point, the back button at the bottom of the screen will restore them. Now let's return to Layout Points and go back to our Stakeout list. You will notice that the first few numbers that were there have disappeared from the list. Once you've laid out a point and click Store, it removes the point from the list, so you don't waste time trying to lay out points that are already laid out. As you can see, if you practice using this tool once or twice and get used to it, it is a very efficient tool for laying out specific areas when you have hundreds or thousands of points, while keeping track of how many points are left and which are already laid out. Now I will remove the list and show you how to do that. Click Home, Stakeout List Management, red X, select the list to delete, and then green check. Let's return to layout points and continue with the next option. Our next view option is split screen. Clicking this button will take you to the split screen configuration window. Tap the one you wish to use. Personally, I always use single view, but again, it is by personal preference and there is no wrong way to choose. Use what you are comfortable with. Let's select one of the two view options and go over those options. First, note that by touching the two sides individually, you can choose which page you are currently working in. Both will continue displaying information, but only one will be your primary screen when you touch it. Using two screens, you can choose multiple configurations of the different view controls. For example, I can select the left screen and set it to arrow view. Notice if I choose a point and click Start, the left screen changes to arrow mode and the right screen stays in default. Now let's touch the left screen and set it to Stakeout List. Notice that I can view my stakeout list on the left and my default view on the right. I encourage you to try different configurations until you find what works best for you. Remember the reference line in the toolbox. You can still use that option in any of the modes we've covered, and even while you're in split screen mode. To return to single screen, open View Controls, select Split Screen, and select Single View. Now let's cover orientation. I'm going to press and hold the Zoom Out button to zoom to the extents of the project. Now let's open View Controls and select Orientation. The top three options allow you to change the reference point regarding the direction of the arrows that appear on your screen when you're laying out points. Normally the default is TPS and I encourage you to leave that there. Let's set it to known point just for training purposes so you can see what happens. After clicking known point, I'm taken back to the map view and prompted in the upper right corner to select or measure orientation point. I'll choose any point, then click the green check. Now I'll choose a point to lay out if it's not already doing so, and notice that now there is a black dashed line leading to the point I selected as my known point. Now the distances and blue arrows are in relation to the point I selected and the point I'm searching for. For new users, this can become confusing. I'll set it back to TPS now. Notice that the black dashed line changed to an orange dashed line and is now leading to my total station. Also, the numbers and arrows changed to be in relation to the total station. Let's go back to orientation and look at the bottom three options. NESW is one that is highly favored by some users. NESW stands for North, East, South, and West. The default view is North. I'm going to move my total station in the simulator to show you why using compass orientation is useful. If I'm using TPS orientation and the total station is my point of reference, then I must be facing the total station while I'm looking for my point. Doing so causes me to be facing a different direction than the tablet's north orientation, which can cause confusion. In this instance, I'm standing to the west of the total station and looking east, so I'm going to change my orientation to east. Now the tablet's map view is the same as what I'm seeing with my eyes when I'm looking at the deck. As you move around the total station, you can change your orientation to match what you see in real life. Selecting movement from the view orientation will cause the map to rotate as you move on the deck. This requires much more experience and typically is not used. The line option under orientation is like the NESW, except that it allows you to change the map's orientation to match any angle instead of being restricted to north, south, east, or west. The next view control option is automatic centering. Once the total station has locked on the prism and has started measuring, it forces the map to snap to the rod and follow it. This is helpful when laying out points and should usually be left turned on. If you want to pan the map away from the area that you're in and choose a point somewhere else in the building, it will cause the map to continue to snap back. In that instance, turn off automatic centering, pan to where you wish to look, and afterwards turn automatic centering back on. If you leave it turned off while searching for a point and you walk out of the map's current view area, it will not follow you and you will not be able to tell where you're at in relation to the point you're searching for. Next, we have, have map view options. Clicking this will take you to the screen where you can choose what information is displayed by the objects in the DXF and CSV files. The most commonly requested training in this area is regarding the information displayed about the points. Many times, users wish to see the description of the point they're laying out, so they know how to mark it on the deck, but it isn't showing up. Open Map View options and make sure point information is turned on in the upper left corner. And then in the upper right corner, make sure code is in one of the two boxes. I'll change the configuration around so you can see the effects. You can display two pieces of information at the same time or just one. If your descriptions disappear, this is where you would look to turn them back on. Elevation filter will not be used because we are not working with three-dimensional files. If we were, it would allow you to cut the elevation view plane to whatever elevation you want. You can either slide the two scroll bars up or down, or type in known elevations if you are trying to isolate a specific area. The last option is Isolate. Typically, you will never need this function because you can easily control what aspects of your background are being displayed through your layer manager, which will be covered in a future video. Should you choose to try it though, click Isolate, and when you are prompted to select a line, point, or arc for isolation, tap on a line in the background image. Then click the green check. All other items in the DXF will be hidden and the type that you selected will be isolated. To undo isolation, you can click the blue box that appears in the upper left corner. Tap the eraser in the lower right corner, and then click green check. This concludes the View Controls video. Again, I encourage you to try different configurations and practice until you find what works best for you. Please join me in the next video covering the Layer Manager.